Well, this is my review of RWBY Volume 7, Episode 4, and before I get into the lot I have to say about this one, I think we should have a moment to remember the people who were not in this episode. First off, Maria. No idea what happened to her. I'm guessing she just kind of got lost after she wandered off in the first episode. She's probably dead by now. Next up, Neo and Cinder. I can only assume that their plane crashed on the way to Atlas, and they're both long dead now. Robin Hill. This is actually a weird one because she's so prevalent in the opening, and they've talked about her so much, and yet we still have not actually met her 4 episodes in. Though it does seem like these two who are scouting out the Atlas Stadium work for her, as they have the same pin she has on. So I guess those are the Happy Huntresses, her merry men, as they say. So interesting. And finally, poor sweet Oscar. He missed out on cake! Seriously, he's a poor farm boy. He's probably never had cake in his life, and he missed out on his only chance to get it. I mean, right there, Team RWBY, that's just selfish. That's just selfish. Anyway, episode starts off with a good chunk of Team RWBY just being absolutely obsessed with the Aesops for their incredible skills and power and all that, and just more so their teamwork. And after Ren refused to compliment her outfit last episode, looks like Nora's looking for a new partner. So she tried teaming herself with Elm as the Thunder Thighs, which I've actually been told is the name the community came up with in the last week. So good on you, Rooster Teeth, for being able to get that in so quickly, or just good on the community for being such good guessers. Do love Ren just picking Nora up and carrying her away when she, just makes a complete and utter fool of herself. Seriously, the parallels between Elm and Vine and Nora and Ren are just getting more and more obvious, especially with this whole smelling meat joke. I mean, that definitely may be interesting if they came out right and said it like, oh yeah, we've been dating for 6 years or something like that. That'd give me a good laugh. I mean, the quiet, reserved, mystic monk over here dating or married to this wild child, that would just amuse me quite a bit. And once again, Marrow has made the butt of all their jokes, which is just a little bit uncomfortable because he's the one faunus on the team. He's like the minority, and everyone's always making fun of him. That definitely kind of just makes me a little uncomfortable there. I mean, if it had been anyone else who was the butt of jokes, I get that. But being Marrow, being the one faunus they have, it's awkward. It definitely makes me think he's ended up betraying the team because of it down the road, because they're just, so overtly racist or something like that. Anyway, this leads to the very depressing reveal that the Aesops are in fact not friends. More so, they're just allies, comrades, but they don't actually, consider themselves as friends. They don't consider themselves, but they don't actually consider themselves to be friends. They don't, hang out after work or whatever. They just get together, do the job, and then go their separate ways at the end of the day. And this is honestly just really depressing for RWBY. I mean, Blake's ears even go down when she realizes that, because that's not who they want to be. As Weiss says later on, they're freaking family, which greatest line the entire show so far, but I'll get to that. And RWBY is just really afraid that this is going to happen to her as well down the road. They're just going to end up going their separate ways, not team up anymore, and just become people who get together, do the job, and then part ways. And so she keeps trying to get them to team up with her, like, oh, let's go now, let's go have some fun, let's go do this, let's go do that. And she's like, we don't do anything anymore. And they're like, RWBY, we literally just crossed a continent on foot. We are tired. We're going to bed. I get it. RWBY's afraid they're going to lose their connection they have together, but I don't think that's something she has to worry about quite yet. Anyway, then Ironwood shows up and tells him that Forrest is dead. Another person who openly spoke out against him and the sins of Atlas and all that, which definitely confirms my theory that they're in fact going after his enemies to create kind of a revolution to bring down Atlas, Ironwood, and the whole everything. I really like this plot point. It was basically first introduced on a newspaper billboard. It's just a very subtle way of hinting at something to get the community excited and theorizing and talking about, which ended up being true. It's really cool. Also, it takes John a really long time to remember that guy. Like, after a full minute of Ironwood talk, he's like, wait a minute, I know him! We were on the same transport together! And RWBY is quite literally taken aback that he's dead. I still love that innocence about her, Crow's like, oh yeah, that dude, he was an ass. Guess he's dead. Ruby's like, oh, he's dead? I mean, Ruby didn't even like the guy. No one liked the guy. I hated the guy. Everyone hated the guy. And Ruby's still taking it back that someone she talked to died. I just love that little innocence she still has about her. And then John, wow. He really grew a pair here. Openly criticizing Ironwood the embargo. That's definitely not something John would have done like the first 6 volumes. I mean, you really forget how much of an absolute coward he was in the beginning. How afraid he was to talk up to anybody, and now he's just really grown to this point. I mean, he still apologizes after that. It's like, sir. But it's just a nice moment for him. And then Jacques shows up, because of course he did. I mean, I knew this had happened sooner or later, and I'm glad it finally did, but just... Oh god, Jacques, I hate you so much. And like with John, it takes him a really long time to notice that Weiss is there. Like, he's literally yelling Ironwood for 3 straight minutes, and he finally stops to take a breath. He's like, my daughter's here? And it's not even like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're alive. It's like, god damn it, Ironwood, you roped her into this thing too? I can't believe you did that. Like, he's not even happy she's alive. He's just angry that she's there. He's really an ass. And it's not even that, he just thought that she was hiding with a friend of hers or something. He was well aware of the fact that she left Atlas. That she essentially went out into a war zone where there's no communication, everything's absolute chaos, and he's not even relieved that she's alive. He's just annoyed. I mean, that's just next level bad parenting right there. Anyway, Jacques here to complain that the mine site was taken over, eminent domain laws and whatnot. It's become a confidential military facility. In fact, this didn't even require a vote, which I really like. In fact, it didn't even require a vote, which just really ticks him off because, yes, as once again confirmed by the newspaper billboard, he is running for a seat on the council. And please, God above, do not let this man get a council position or any more power than he already has. I mean, seriously, he even says that he'd fire everyone in Mantle if he wasn't trying to get their vote. Just, no, that is not the kind of person you should vote for. Do not vote for that kind of person, please. Even his own daughter says, believe me, I know exactly the kind of man you are. Because yes, she does. She knows what an absolute monster he is, and hell, she should be campaigning for Robin Hill just to let everyone know how absolutely horrible this man is. And if we needed further proof, when he finds out that he can't force Weiss home or use his money to get her home, he tries to emotionally extort her. Oh, Weiss, your poor mother, she was so devastated when you left. Oh, she couldn't leave her bed. Honestly, it might just kill her. And this is just next level evil right here. I mean, seriously, next level evil. But thank you, God, her team came there to support her. And I was honestly a little surprised it was Blake that held her hand here. I thought it'd be Ruby. And not just because I'm White Rose, but looking back, this makes such perfect sense. Blake knows what it means to be emotionally extorted, to face a man like that. I mean, for her, it was Adam, Blake, how could you leave us? How you aren't thinking of leaving us, of abandoning me like your parents did, of abandoning our cause to save the faunus? How could you? I mean, this is textbook Adam right here, and I'm hoping it ends the same way. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. So, yeah, a whole lot wrong with that, but just having her team there, standing by her side, supporting her, it's just such a great scene, and it finally reaches the point where she says, no, Father, they aren't my friends. They're my family. My real family. You and me, we ain't nothing no more. And it's just such a great scene. I absolutely freaking loved it. And then as soon as he leaves, she basically just absolutely deflates. And I just love that, I mean, as much as she did there to stand up to her father, to tell him off, to tell him what a monster he is, and that she's standing with Team RWBY now, it was definitely not easy for her. It took a huge toll on her to finally do that, to finally build up the courage to really tell him off like that. And once he was finally gone, like I said, she basically just deflated. Just completely and utterly exhausted from the interaction. It was just so perfect. Anyway, then Penny shows up a little early to wish them congratulations. Because as it turns out, they are being granted their official Huntsman and Huntress's license today, and just thank you freaking God. I definitely thought this was coming. It seemed like something that had been hinted at for a while. Like when the Aesops first arrested Team RWBY, they said, you guys aren't actually huntsmen, so therefore you can't fight Grimm like that. Later on, when they were talking to them in the lobby, they said, sorry, students. I mean, they've been called kids over and over again this whole volume, and now they're officially recognized as real live huntsmen and huntresses. And Penny is just so utterly happy for them. She's literally bouncing, and Winter has to hold her back. Honestly, this is like the weirdest relationship ever, Winter and Penny. I just want to see more of them. Hell, I want a sitcom spin-off of these two living together, trying to make it work in the big city. They're just absolutely adorable and hilarious together. I kind of get now why they got rid of CL and didn't bring her back, because it's basically Winter taking over the role she had. I just find it so weird that Penny is just like happy and excited and bouncy and bubbly, where she was murdered. Like, this is literally the spot where her body was torn into pieces and she died. I kind of feel like that should have gotten a mention at some point in this episode. I'm just saying. Yeah, so then Ironwood gives this whole little speech, and of course he has to say, you're the most trustworthy people I ever met, and I'm so glad to have you by my side. And they all kind of give each other an awkward look like, ooh, yeah, we're lying to him. We kind of feel bad about that. And then Ironwood gives like the most awkward speech outro ever. It's actually painful as he's trying to figure out how just to walk away. And Penny has to actually congratulate him on improving like that. Apparently that's what he's always been bad at, so he's improving, I guess. Good for him. Anyway, then they get cake, and like I said, still a little mad that Oscar didn't get any, but whatever. This does confirm, though, that Penny still has her robot blades, which I figured she just switched straight to laser weapons instead, but good to see she still has her swords. I have this interesting theory about how that's going to end up being her main weapon down the road. I have another video on that in the next week or so look forward to that. Then we should have this great scene of Yang showing off her arm to Penny, which is just so insane because, you know, Penny's father made that arm that essentially makes Yang and Penny arm sisters? Robot sisters? I don't know, it's just such a weird scene. I hope that gets brought up again down the road. Yang and Blake had a very cute selfie together, which I absolutely love. I mean, Blake's like, okay, what do I do here? Smile. How does one smile again? I've kind of forgotten how. Just such a cute moment between the two of them. And then we move on to Crow, and there's a lot I want to say about this scene. I mean, for one thing, Crow is on board with RWBY not telling Ironwood everything, which... How did I not consider Crow in this whole thing? I mean, Crow is, you know, longtime friend of Ironwood. They've worked together for like a decade at this point. I mean, the amount of trust he has in RWBY and trusting your decision not to tell him at this point just really speaks volumes to how much faith he has in his little niece. Of course, RWBY's still doubting herself, like, but not telling him doesn't make me the same as Oz. And, you know, once again, he brings up a good point. Oz literally told one person the truth about everything. Himself. That was it. I mean, RWBY trusted, you know, Team Juniper with all the information about Ozpin, and she will trust Ironwood eventually. She just has to confirm that, you know, he's not actually behind all these killings in Mantle, and that he isn't hiding some deep, dark, terrifying secret, which I am absolutely certain he still is. I have some very dark theories about the Maiden, mainly involving, you know, the Aura transplant machine they used, well, attempted to use back in Volume 3. That was definitely made in Atlas, and they definitely could have used it again to make sure that the Maiden's powers go to whoever they wanted them to go to. But we'll see about that. And then, finally, Summer gets brought up. And RWBY has to ask, did she die because of Ozpin? Did she die in an Ozpin mission? And I know a lot of people in the community have been just screaming at RWBY over and over again just to ask this, to finally know the answers. And the truth is, RWBY is a very sad person. I know that doesn't really come out with her bubbly personality, but we've seen a lot of times that she is just sad, like a lot. And she's just holding it in to protect her team, to protect her friends, protect her family from feeling sad themselves. She's just trying to keep it all together for them. And when her mother gets brought up, it makes it harder to hold back that sadness. So her asking this, her finding out the truth, is something she's essentially been afraid of for a very long time. She's afraid that if she knows the truth, she won't be able to overcome the sadness, and it's a great moment for her here finally being able to ask it. I think it's at least partially motivated by the end of Volume 6, when she remembered her mother, and that helped her unlock her inner lights. Her use her silver eyes, take out the Leviathan. That was just a great moment right there. Anyway, so the big answer to the question is, in fact, that she was not on an Ozpin mission. Or at the very least, Crow doesn't think she was an Ozpin mission. I'm going to say she wasn't because, I don't know, I feel like that'd just be hat on hat. Like, if they ask, like when Ozpin eventually comes back, he's like, did you lie about the summer mission? She's like, oh yeah, she was on a mission for me. And that, like, restarts the whole, angry at Ozpin thing. I think it was her own separate thing she was into. I mean, my two main theories are, one, she was actually investigating Ozpin, trying to find out the truth about him, trying to find out what he was hiding. Maybe Raven let something slip before she left, and she was looking into herself. I mean, I did see some theories online that Raven was with her when she got killed, but I don't know. Whenever we've seen Raven talk about Summer, which has happened twice so far, once she has called her naive, and the other time in the actual comic book, which is canon, she screamed at RWBY that Summer was a bad mother. I mean, seriously, what the frig is wrong with you, Raven? It doesn't really come off as someone, who was responsible for getting Summer killed, maybe just like self-hatred projected outward, but that doesn't seem like the case, so I'm a little against that theory right now. And the second theory is maybe Ozpin had nothing to do with it. Maybe she went out to search out the truth for the Silver Eyes, their origin, their power, what it meant that her daughter had it, or... I mean, Raven definitely seemed to know that Salem was immortal, so maybe Summer someone figured that out herself, and she was investigating lead on how to properly destroy her, or stop her, or whatever. I mean, either way, it would still make sense that Salem, or whoever it is that is hunting the Silver-Eyed Warriors, did end up killing her just because of her eyes, or because she failed to join their Silver-Eyed cult, or whatever it is. Still a lot of questions about the Silver Eyes. Hopefully when, Ozpin actually wakes up, they can ask him all about that. My theory is the Silver Eyes are his descendants, the people with his blood in their veins, or the blood of the people he possessed. Like the last little remnants of the God of Light still flowing through them. That's just my own theory. It's the best I've come up with so far, but we'll see about that. We then get a very weird line, which I kind of have a problem with. RWBY asks, what would Mom have done if she knew about Salem? And Crow's like, oh, she would have kept going forward. She'd have pressed on, I'm sure of it. But that goes in stark contrast to Red Like Roses, or Red Like Roses Part 2, I forget which part, where, Summer literally says, don't waste your life on a pointless war. So yeah, I get the songs can't really be called canon anymore, especially the early ones, given how much the show has changed over time, but... that was a pretty important part of the story, Summer basically realizing they're fighting a pointless losing battle that they can't possibly win, and begging her daughter, don't do what I did! Go live a happy life! Go raise kids on your own! Don't run off to fight a war and die against an immortal god! Don't do that! Personally, I would prefer if this is actually a rewrite of the character, and Summer is actually a much more hopeful, optimistic person than she was originally, but again, we'll see down the road. So far, when asked about Summer, all we've really been told about her is that she was naive, and now that she was a brat, so not really sure what to make of all that. This does just lead to a really cute moment between Summer and Crow, where they're just goofing off back and forth laughing. It's just such a sweet moment, and definitely raises some death flags for him. But I just really love this moment. It's probably one of my favorites in the entire episode. Anyway, then they get the mission board, and now RWBY is the one who's hyperactive and super happy, wondering if she's going to go undercover, and then just shaking Penny. It's just such a cute moment. I really loved it. Anyway, first mission, they need to bring a bunch of kindergarten kids down to Mantle to go to school. Anyway, because the parents are afraid of sending their kids, that attracts the Gram, which requires a huntsman to guard them. And, of course, John ends up taking that role. From what I remember of last volume, he's not particularly gifted with kids, so that's probably going to end very poorly for him. Next mission, take out a massive saber that's loose in the sewers. Oh, poor John. You should never take the first mission offered to you. Always wait for number 2. Anyway, then we switch back over to Jock, and we see a very different side of Whitley right here. He's nervous and afraid. I definitely think this could lead to sort of a redemption arc for Whitley. I'm personally of the opinion he's an absolute monster and irredeemable. But I know a lot of people are of a different opinion on that, and personally I'd have no problem if he ends up, being the hero here. He goes to Weiss, he warns her about the deal their father made, about the awful things he's planning to do, and saves the day, more or less. That'd be a great scene, a great moment for those two to bond together, become family again. Free him from his evil father's clutches. That was a very weird theory that definitely got a bit of fuel right here. It basically goes that Whitley is in fact a clone made of Jock so that he can rule the company forever. And Watts basically says that word for word, so interesting. Anyway, so then we get confirmation that Watts and Jock definitely know each other, and apparently more personally than I first imagined. I assume they just worked in the same circles. One theory I really liked online was that Watts was Willow's first husband or lover or whatever, and then Jock came in and stole her from him. I like that, but this definitely seems like they were more partners, allies, like he was one of Jock's chief scientists before, he faked his own death. He's like taken aback by seeing him, almost afraid, but then he seems to calm down fairly quickly. Like, he's not thinking, oh, this guy is going to kill me for what I did to him. He's more thinking, I just didn't expect to see him here. Anyway, then Watts basically offers him a Faustian bargain, though he definitely doesn't seem to realize at the time. I'm definitely not of the opinion that, Jacques would team up with the leader of the Grimm to go on a mass killing spree of Atlas and Mantle. That seems very unlikely, but, if Watts says, oh, I'm working with another philanthropist, I'm working for a third party that wants to get the embargo lifted or something like that, I could see him doing some fairly nefarious things to get rid of Ironwood. Killing people, maybe. He certainly didn't seem to mind all the faunus died in his mind, but human beings, he might have a slightly different opinion on. We'll see about that. So yeah, now Watts is working with Jacques, which is going to make things go very poorly for Ironwood. I definitely think it's going to continue getting worse, and Team RWBY's opinion, like, what if Ironwood really is doing this? Like, they're going to see proof of it. Maybe even, like, some doctored footage that shows Ironwood straight up killing Forrest himself or something like that. Though it did look like he was killed by poison. Like, Tyrion uses poison tail, so if they saw that, they might think, oh, Tyrion, the scorpion dude we fought, it's definitely him. Oh, yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. That'd be interesting. That'd definitely be an interesting way of clearing Ironwood's name, at least to them. And it looks like next episode is going to be them pairing off and going out on missions of their own. I'd definitely be interesting about some Bumblebee moments, the two of them on a mission by themselves, talking about everything that's happened while, kicking butt and showing off their awesome teamwork. I'd like that. I think Weiss definitely needs to have a conversation with somebody, hopefully RWBY, about her father, what he's done, and just how she feels about all that. Because, like I said before, confronting her father was not an easy thing for her, and it physically, mentally, emotionally drained her completely. I just think she needs to talk to RWBY about this, about her mother, about all that. I said RWBY just because I think Blake and Yang need to have their own time right now, but Weiss and Blake could have some really in-depth conversations right here about just being manipulated and being controlled by the awful men in their lives, and I think that'd also be really cool, but I feel like we haven't gotten a good, Weiss and RWBY moment in a while, so I'd like that. Anyway, like I said, next episode, probably them off on their own missions, trying to do things. Well, everyone in Mantle thinks, oh, you're working for Ironwood, you're just assassins like the rest of them, or something like that. That'll be fun. Not sure about Crow. I said for a while now I thought he was going to go off on his own, investigate the killings his own way, the only way a trained spy can, or, just be a bird and listen around, see what's happening that way. Either one works. It's also weird he hasn't turned into a bird in a while. That could definitely be, interesting to see. Interesting for him to, get around more easily from Atlas to Mantle. Just fly right down. And hopefully we finally see, Robin Hill or Neo and Cinder or Maria. No idea where any of them are. I assumed Oscar would be, training with Ironwood, talking to him about everything, eventually spilling the beans at some point. But no, he wasn't in this episode, and yet Ironwood was. So a lot of questions about whatever the hell it is he's doing. I can only hope, he's training with some of the instructors at Atlas Academy. I guess we'll have to wait and see about that, but let me know what you think about all this down below. Can we trust Ironwood? What the freak was Summer doing when she got killed? Was it Salem that killed her? Was it some mysterious third party we don't know about? I mean, if it was Salem, my money's definitely on Hazel, and I think it's gonna lead to a great moment where Ruby finds out the truth and just goes absolutely freaking crazy on him, cutting him into very small pieces with her petals. But yeah, let me think about all that down below. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Until then,
Peace.